You know, ever since I was a young boy, I knew I wanted to become a linguist. My father, his father, even my great-grandfather were all world-renowned linguists. The tradition started with my great-grandfather, who became world-famous for his immense research into one of the most convoluted and complex languages of the time, which was around the 2020s. The language was called Brexit Geezer or something strange like that. But his son decided to carry on the tradition, and so did his son, and now here I am. I've loved linguistics for my entire life, and I've been working at Ligari Portals as an interdimensional linguistics researcher for about 10 years now. But when I was hired at Ligari Portals in the summer of 2107, it was right after the first Q dimensions were discovered, and as such, my first and longest assignment at Ligari Portals has been researching the language of one of the first Q dimensions ever discovered, 4-6Q. And today I will present my findings on both variants of the language found in 46Q. Today, I plan to learn you a thing or two about classical and new Semantospeak, the language of 46Q. You may be wondering, why do we have record of two separate variants of this language? Well, you must know that this is dimension 4-6Q, which means that we used a Type 6 portal to access this dimension. There's a glitch that happens with our portals sometimes, and it happens most frequently with these Type 6 portals. This glitch causes a split in time for a traveling researcher, which means that we have record of both what this language sounded like around the year 2100, classical Semantospeak, and what it sounds like around the year 2400, new Semantospeak. The other thing which must be noted about dimension 46Q is the unique physiology of its inhabitants. The inhabitants of this dimension have a very similar physiology to humans. However, their mouths, tongues, and jaws are much larger, stronger, and more flexible than that of humans. This allows them to create a range of ungodly sounds which humans cannot produce. As such, the phonology of Semantospeak includes every single known combination of place of articulation and manner of articulation, with a few distinct secondary articulations. These secondary articulations are palatalization, velarization, labialization, aspiration, and pharyngealization. Both consonants and vowels also feature distinction between three lengths: short, long, and overlong. Speaking of vowels, Semantospeak also features every vowel that can be seen on the IPA's vowel chart, as well as a distinction between three lengths, like I said, and four tones: rising, falling, level, and rising-falling. The other main physiological difference between humans and the people of 46Q is that the people of 46Q have more developed ears and brains than we do, so they can process information more quickly than we can, and they can also hear more subtle distinctions between various sounds, and these changes make it very obvious why Semantospeak has evolved to be as complex and as bizarre as it is. In classical Semantospeak, every noun is two short consonants, every verb is one vowel, and every adjective is two long consonants, and every pronoun is one overlong consonant. To understand exactly how this system works, let's look at the creation of a noun. Within the first phoneme of a noun, the manner of articulation determines a general group which the word fits into. And then the place of articulation further narrows that down to a still general term. Next, within the second phoneme, both the place and manner of articulation act as further categorizers, and this allows complex, detailed definitions to be constructed, in Semantospeak, all nouns work like this, and the speakers are very clearly aware of this. Ask any speaker, and they can tell you exactly what a specific place or manner of articulation may mean depending on its position or what the first phoneme of the noun is. Verbs work in a similar way, except the first phoneme is actually the openness and the frontedness of the vowel, and the second phoneme is the tone and length of the vowel. Adjectives also function in the same way that nouns do. Because all possible phonemes have already been given meaning as their own words, this means that words themselves are actually used for the case, tense, etc. markers within the language. For example, the marker for the past tense is actually just the word for past, and the marker for the dative case is actually just the word for gift. However, these still need to be distinguished from their counterparts somehow, so they're done so with secondary articulations. If a word acts as a case marker for a noun, then it is placed after the noun, and all the phonemes in the affix are aspirated. And if a word is acting as the plural marker for a noun, then all phonemes in the affix are labialized. However, this only applies if the noun is the subject of the sentence. That's right, these change based on context. On screen, you will see the other charts displaying how this changes depending on the context of the noun in the sentence. A similar thing occurs with the verbs in Semantospeak. However, instead of being based around being subject or object, the secondary articulations for the affixes denoting the tense, mood, and aspect of the verb change based on the mood of the verb. And here you will see the charts for this as well. Nouns in Semantospeak can be marked for any one of 8 cases: nominative, accusative, instrumental, dative, genitive, locative, inessive, or ablative. Verbs in this language can be marked for any one of 3 tenses: past, present, and future, 4 aspects: simple, progressive, perfect, and perfect progressive, as well as 3 moods: imperative, indicative, and interrogative. The other important thing to note about nouns in Semantospeak is that if they are definite, then both of their consonants become ingressive. I also want to talk a little bit about the pronouns of this language, which I'm sure would make Elon Musk very unhappy. In Semantospeak, every pronoun is exactly one overlong consonant. The manner of articulation of this consonant determines whether it is subject, object, or instrument, whether it is one of the 3 animacy classes, human, zoic, or inanimate object, and also whether it is male or female. However, if whatever or whoever the pronoun is referring to does not have a gender or is a mixed group, then the ingressive form of the male pronoun is used. In Semantospeak, all first-person pronouns are bilabial, second-person pronouns are alveolar, and all third-person pronouns are velar. If the pronoun is voiced, then it is plural, but if it is unvoiced, then it is singular. A complete table of all pronouns in Semantospeak can be seen here. And this basically summarizes classical Semantospeak. And then there was the incursion. We don't know exactly how, and we don't know exactly why, but around the year 2160, a group of hundreds of K-bop-speaking travelers came into Dimension 46Q. And where they came in was very close to a very prominent university which housed thousands of linguistic scholars. We estimate it took about 30 to 40 years for these groups to actually begin to understand each other's languages, as these languages function so immensely differently. But once it was understood, it was realized by both sides what this meant. There could be a new language, a combination which could be the most accurate, precise, specific language ever known. And thus, over the course of the next 200 years, New Semantospeak, also sometimes called Semantospeak K-pop Creole, was created. New Semantospeak is a Semantospeak-based Creole with a massive amount of influence from K-pop grammar. While the Semantospeak base words have entirely stayed the same due to the system's inherent imperviousness to change, the grammar has become ever and ever closer to K-pop grammar over the last 200 years. The methods of affixation in New Semantospeak are very similar to that of classical Semantospeak. However, these denote what K-pop affixes were trying to denote in the first place. You may be wondering what I mean by this, so I'll explain. Nouns now feature a third and fourth phoneme. The manner of articulation of the third phoneme distinguishes which of the 13 manners of death will apply to the noun. The place of articulation of the third phoneme in each noun determines both the edibility of the noun and distinguishes between the 7 animacy classes found in the language. As for the noun's new fourth phoneme, the place of articulation of this phoneme determines the speaker's opinion on the noun, and the manner of articulation of the fourth phoneme distinguishes between the 3 suspectivenesses. Verbs have developed a similar system, now featuring a second and third vowel. For the second vowel, the frontedness and tone determines the speaker's mental state, and the openness of this second vowel determines the suspectiveness and finiteness of the verb. The frontedness of the third vowel determines the evidentiality and the object size relative to a bread box, and the openness of this third vowel determines the day of the week which the event occurred on. The opinion of the speaker is determined by the combination of the 2 lengths of the second and third vowel. Since both verbs and nouns have now developed extra phonemes that are phonetically identical to their first phonemes, they need some way to separate them, to distinguish them. And thus phonemic hats have made their way into New Semantospeak. Every single noun's first, third, and fourth phoneme, and every single verb's first, second, and third phoneme all have hats that distinguish identical sounds from one another if one cannot see text written down. However, like all good things, this comes with a catch. That is, in Semantospeak, depending on where a verb or noun is in a sentence, its affixes are going to be changed. This means that, as well, the first hats for nouns change depending on context. The same applies to verbs. This is not where the hat switching ends. New Semantospeak has also developed a formality system for its hats, because it's outright ridiculous to say that a scenario which requires a top hat may also require one to wear a pangolin on their head. As such, fedoras and top hats are considered formal. Baseball caps are considered partially formal because they're typically worn by children but do occur at a formal official event, such as baseball games. And the pangolin and chicken hats are generally considered informal. However, a chicken hat cannot work with a pangolin hat because a chicken hat is only used in place of a pangolin hat if the individual is lying. Here is the full chart of which hat combinations are allowed and which aren't. Also, if the switching of a hat will cause confusion or overlap with another meaning, then the original unconverted hat must be worn under the proper converted hat. This about concludes the grammar of New Semantospeak. Now let's look at the construction of a very simple sentence. It is a serpent. The first word "it" is a pronoun, meaning that it is an overlong consonant. This is in third person, so we know the place of articulation will be velar. Noun refers to an animal as the subject, meaning that the manner of articulation will be sibilant fricative. And lastly, this is indeterminate gender, which means we're going to be using the ingressive form of the male pronoun. This gives us the appropriate pronoun. The verb is a permanent state, meaning to be, which means that it is a front near close unrounded vowel, I. It is also short and level tone because it is non-descriptive. There is a finite number of serpents and the speaker suspects this, so we use a closed vowel for the second vowel. The speaker is obviously hallucinating, as serpents don't exist, so this vowel is also front and will have rising falling tone. E. For the third vowel, this occurrence is happening on a Monday, so the vowel is near close, and the speaker sees this with their own eyes, and the object is larger than a bread box, meaning we use the verificate major, so this vowel is also back and level tone, giving us the vowel Also, this serpent is seen as epic by the speaker, meaning the second vowel is overlong and the third vowel is long. This noun, serpent, refers to an animal, so it is a sibilant fricative. And because this is a long and thin animal, this becomes a bilabial sibilant fricative, which is unvoiced, because this is not a real animal. This animal is limbless, which means the second consonant is velar, and this animal is reptilian, so the second phoneme will be an approximant. Because this is not a real animal, both of these sounds will be unvoiced. This serpent is an immortal, inedible, non-human metazoanate, meaning that our third phoneme is an unvoiced palatal stop. This serpent is not expected, but the speaker does find the serpent epic, so our fourth phoneme is an unvoiced alveolar ejective stop. Now, we add each appropriate hat, change the hats for formality, and voila, we have our short sentence. This sentence in full would be pronounced as Now that we've seen how a basic sentence is formed, let us now look at the full translation. 1、2、3、4、5、6、